So I'm just going to say very few words about the ACA, the Association of Consultant Architects. We were founded in about 1973 and we now cover the whole of the UK. The ACA offers a voice and support for architects who are in private practice in their own name. Members are ARB registered architects, either working as principals in partnership, directors of a company or sole practitioner. We're not a regulatory body, but offer services related to the practice business of architecture. We publish a well-regarded range of partnering and other forms of building contracts, forms of architectural appointment, and act as a portal to legal business and PII help for our members. We lobby, regularly consult with government and other major institutions, including the RIBA and ARB, always in the interests of practicing architects. We're well respected by government departments concerned with property, construction and town planning, and aim to keep a strong media presence. ACAPAG, the ACA Planning Action Group, is our very strong planning group, led by Andy Rogers over there, aided and vetted by Brian Waters, sitting on my right here. The ACA as a whole is energetically non-bureaucratic. Its constitution is run by council, and with a lean but hard-working support from our Secretary General and Administrative Manager, who are both here, I won't put them out, we work to serve our membership. If you're interested in membership and qualify, we'll be keen to give you more information. Speak to Shona before you leave, or let us have an email address. And incidentally, if you wouldn't mind, there are some pieces of paper on the table. You would just give us your name and your organisation. You can give us as much or as little information as you like. We just want to see who's here and how many people we've got here. Attendance at ACA events, however, is not restricted in any way. And if you find this one enjoyable and relevant, do leave the email so that we can post you notices of further events, or alternatively, sign in on Meter and you will be posted those automatically. Just a few words about tonight, and then I'll be quiet. This is the first in what we hope will continue as an enjoyable series of informal meetings with lively debate on topical subjects called ACA Soapbox. And we've done that to emphasise the informality and participation that we hope for. We hope to broaden awareness of the ACA throughout the building and property industry and professions and pick up some new members in the process. Tonight the subject is plan, non-plan. Polarised for simplicity of message and prompted in the first place by the ACA response to the government's consultation on the proposed National Planning Policy Framework. The subject, however, raises deeper passions, as we learned, both for and against development control and all that it entails. Challenges to orthodoxy are never new, and we looked back to the thoughts of Cedric Price and, interestingly, Peter Hall, published in the AR and New Society in the late 60s, for a robust rebuttal of town planning called Non-Plan, which gave us our title for this evening and the competing motions, Plan, Non-Plan. The format of tonight's session is straightforward. We start with two speakers who will indulge in short rants for and against. That may actually be mostly for and mostly against, and then it is open to the House with Alison Coutinho and Phil Wyand encouraging and adjudicating. You have already fallen into or maybe chosen a camp. See the label on your table. See if you feel differently later in the debate when we may take a vote. So let's get started, and Alison will now introduce our non-plan protagonist.
We may as well turn things on the head and start with against. You have Alfred Munkenbeck speaking first. Brooklyn-born Alfred schooled in Switzerland, Dartmouth College and Harvard. At Harvard he studied planning law under Charles M. Hart, who approached planning law from first principles, harking right back to medieval British common law. Alfred came to Britain in 1975 to work with James Stone, and as well as private practice he is tutored at the AA in Cambridge and Kingston. Since 2005, Alfred has been a member of the RIBA planning group, which comments on the planning policy, as you know, and he's currently rotating chairman of the Kensington and Chelsea Design Advisory Group, which assists the council in assessing design in individual applications. Over to you, Alfred.
My version of the motion is sort of the fact that I think planning is grossly overrepresented. And judging from emerging government policy, I think the UK political majority seems to be moving that way in the last year and a half. I'm going to start off talking about a few sort of basic principles of where it all came from, and then go over to where planning is now. Basic principles is a kind of a tug-of-war between two sort of legal philosophical concepts, quiet enjoyment and property rights. Planning as an idea has unfortunate associations. It combines overtones of big brother authoritarianism, planning, with intelligent design foresight. Before 1947, there was no planning statute as such. And in the UK and most other places, God knows how we would survive for so long. Before planning, neighbors just used to sue each other about disruptions to the quiet enjoyment of their property. You know, read some stuff out of Wikipedia, which is surprisingly poignant. Nuisance, part of the law of tort, nuisance, is one of the oldest causes of action known in common law, with cases framed in nuisance going back almost to the beginning of recorded case history. Nuisance signifies the right of quiet enjoyment is being disrupted to such a degree that a tort. Under common law, persons in possession of real property, landowners, leaseholders, are entitled to quiet enjoyment of their lands. If the neighbor interferes with that quiet enjoyment, either by creating smells, sounds, pollution, or some other hazard that extends beyond the boundaries of the property, the affected party may make a claim in nuisance. To be a nuisance, the level of interference must rise above the merely aesthetic. For example, if your neighbor paints their house purple, it may offend you, however it doesn't rise to the level of nuisance. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the law of nuisance became difficult to administer, as competing property uses often posed a nuisance to each other. And the cost of litigation to settle the issue grew prohibitive. As such, most jurisdictions now have a system of land use planning, or zoning, that describes what activities are acceptable on a given location. Zoning or planning generally overrules nuisance. For example, if a factory is operating in an industrial zone, neighbors in the neighboring residential zone can't make a claim of nuisance. Now that's private property rights. It's another issue. And the concept of private property rights, funnily enough, is not respected in places like the Soviet Union or Zimbabwe. In some cases, not respected in places like the UK. A quote from the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy sounds great. The right to private property is the socio-political principle that adult human beings may not be prohibited or prevented by anyone from acquiring, holding, and trading with willing parties valued items not already owned by others. Such a right is thus unalienable, and if in fact justified, is supposed to enjoy respect and legal protection just in a just human community. According to Adam Smith, the expectation of profit from improving one's stock or capital rests on private property rights. And then Wikipedia says, traditional principles of private property rights, these are the rights you have as a private landowner, include, amongst others, traditionally, the control of the use of your property and the right to any benefit from the property. Mining rights, rent, or obviously development is another one of those benefits that you get from the property. Traditional property rights do not include uses that unreasonably interfere with the property rights of another private party, the right of quiet enjoyment. See nuisance. Uses that unreasonably interfere with public property rights, including uses that interfere with public health, safety, peace, or convenience. Now it's moved on to a large extent to the environment. So, if you don't bother anybody else, traditionally, you're allowed to do what you like with your own property. What you're not allowed to do is bother it. It seems to me kind of basic and hard to resist. Amazingly, planning only started in the UK in 1947. Having wrestled with it professionally for now 35 years, it's a weird system. Suddenly, in 1947, almost any development on private land had to await a specific provision procedure. It's a cliche to say that all development that conservationists are now trying to preserve happened without the benefit of planning. For 1,000 years, you could do what you wished, provided you did not harm your neighbors. Suddenly, every aspect of scrutinized and innocuous development could be blocked. The utilization of private land was subject to whether a development control officer thought it was a good idea or not. Permission was now required to exercise your private property rights, except with very minor ones. The zoning system in the USA and many other countries also makes plans and separates incompatible uses, but assumes that a developer is innocent until proved guilty. It proposes that a landowner may develop as he wishes unless he breaks the rules, which in some zones may include aesthetic restrictions. In the UK planning, the developer is assumed guilty. Any development is assumed to break the law a priori until innocence is established by going and getting permission. Each application is a mini trial.